The Lester's Grill, Carolina Hotel. Jim's lunch for hot dogs, we'll eat our fill. Sam and Max shoe shine, I'll pick up the bill. California sandwich shop, we'll find our thrill. Down on Hamburger Square, Hamburger Square. Some of my favorite people down there. Down on Hamburger Square, Hamburger Square. Sam and Max and little Lester's down there. Got something can't be taken away. The power of love, baby, what I say. Max Corner Grill got the mystery mounds. It's Blumenthal's and you know you're downtown. Down on Hamburger Square, Hamburger Square. Some of my favorite people down there. Down on Hamburger Square, Hamburger Square. Sam and Max and little Esther's down there.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to our show, Conversations. My guest today is Eric Woodard. Thank you so much for being on the program today.
You're welcome.
Good. This comes off of the celebration of the South Benbow Rd Historic District, and what a delight to finally get this project signed, sealed, and delivered. We're going to talk about that for a little bit. We're going to talk about you
Sure.
and all the things that you do. Thank you again for being on the program.
No, well, thank you for the opportunity.
Now, you grew up in Greensboro, didn't you?
I did not.
You did not?
I've been here 31 years, and I actually was born in Wilson, North Carolina. Went to school in Raleigh, and was in Raleigh for 10 years before moving here in '94.
Okay. And tell me about what Greensboro was like when you moved here.
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Again, it was 31 years ago. Actually, June will be 31 years. I like Greensboro. One of the things that I noticed, actually, that the streets were clean. I moved here from Raleigh, and that's one of the main things, the first things that I noticed. The streets were clean. Now, that was 31 years ago, so, but it was really cool coming from Raleigh. Not saying that there's trash everywhere in Raleigh on the streets, but I did notice that. But there's been a lot of growth in even the mindset of folks here in Greensboro, believe it or not, or in spite of anything that you might see, just the people that I've met and that I've been working with. I guess my colleagues and those in preservation and even those who prior to being introduced to it, of course, they preservation wasn't anything on their minds, but they've just education and letting people know the purpose of it and how important it is, that has brought a lot of people on board, with preservation. And again, we got advocates now.
But yeah, it seems to be that there's been a lot of as I look at the history of this place, anything that people wanted to have happen. It was never necessarily politicians or anything like that. It was always like the people that kind of banded together and did something.
Yeah. Yes.
Like the baseball stadium over there, the War Memorial Stadium. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading about that when I did a program on that years ago. That was a big deal, and that was the people banding together and raising money for it.
Right. Yes. I mean, and all it takes is just a handful, and I'm of the belief that all it takes is one person initially to make a decision to do something, be it save the War Memorial Stadium or help to establish the South Benbow Rd Historic District or whatever it is. But it starts with one person deciding. And you do have to, from there, get advocates, or bring on board advocates, who can also, help with the education of, the general public about whatever that particular project is.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about your involvement in the South Benbow Rd Historic District, and what this means.
Well, what it means first. Because
go ahead.
My background, as far as what I've done within the district, and is a long story. So we'll start. But it is it's a portion of the mission being accomplished, in that, the historic district, that getting that designation, has been a long journey, and being able to have it done, December 9th, 2024 of last year, having that done and having the support of the community. That's one of my biggest things in all the 10 plus years that I've been working on this thing, is having the support of the community. And I was, I couldn't be more proud of the community, the different neighborhoods coming together, to support this effort to have their area of East Greensboro recognized as a, nationally recognized as a historic district. I guess as far as the history of it and my participation in it, I moved to Greensboro again in 1994, back in when there were 19s, not 20, anything, But, 1994, and just in my learning the city, driving around Greensboro, of course you'll at some point wind up on Benbow Road, and just driving around, noticing amazing architecture. I'm really big into mid-century modern architecture or modernist architecture, and a lot of the houses in that area, particularly along South Benbow Road, were modernist in style, and some were actually mid-century modern, the full-blown mid-century modern houses. And
What does that mean, mid-century modern? Tell us about that. Because
well,
I know you're a design guy.
right, yes. My well, mid-century modern. First, I guess the time period, and there is some, I wouldn't say debate, but a little flex in that. But basically, anywhere from the 1940s through the 1970s, as far as the time period, and a lot of it came about as far as mid-century modern, because prior to that there were other styles of modernist architecture, but during that time frame, particularly even after World War II, where there was a lot of technology, and that was utilized for the war, and some of that technology was then adapted for living, so mid-century modern architecture has like large picture windows. One of the main things is brings the outdoors in and the indoors out. So large picture windows, typically geometric shapes, kind of low or squat geometric shapes, flat roofs or very low pitch on the roofs, utilizing some of the World War II or post-war technology, with the building with steel and glass, so that you can have expansive interiors without walls. It was I wouldn't say coming against, but it was a different thought, because prior to that you had, like Victorian and with a lot of ornamentation. Mid-century or modernist architecture did away with most, if not all, in some instances, of the ornamentation. So, clean lines and, colors, using natural building materials, stone, slate, brick, things like that. So,
Was this, and I know, was this a lot of this was done by Clinton Gravely? Was he involved in a lot of this construction?
yes, he was one of the architects that did some work in the South Benbow Rd Historic District. He, along with Ed Jenkins, W. Edward Jenkins, he was one of the architects who actually graduated from the Architectural Engineering Department at A&T. William Street is another architect who designed homes and buildings, and homes in the district and buildings in Greensboro, churches and commercial buildings. But William Street, he was actually the chair of the Architectural Engineering Department at A&T from like 49 to 85 for a very long time. And then there was Gerard Gray, who was another architect who had some affiliation with the Architectural Engineering Department at A&T. So the four of those architects were responsible for the majority of the more modernist or mid-century modern style houses in the area. And so that, I guess, started with me driving around in '94. It's full circle, but
And this is what you noticed when you were driving around and looking at.
yes, and it was 2013 before I started to put the pieces together, because in 2013 there was a modernist home tour, actually an Ed Lowenstein modernist home tour, and Ed Lowenstein being one of the architects credited with introducing modernism to Greensboro. Back in the late 40s, he came to Greensboro and married into the Cone family, and Jenkins, actually, Ed Jenkins worked with Lowenstein early on in the late 50s. Clinton Gravely worked with Lowenstein in the 60s, and even William Street worked with Ed Lowenstein, also I think in the 50s. But yeah, so 3 of the 4 main architects that designed, the main African American architects, but the architects that designed buildings, houses in that area, worked with Ed Lowenstein at some point in their careers.
Mm-hmm. So we started on your involvement. Tell us how you started to get involved. This was roughly a 10-year process.
Yes, actually, again, starting in 2013.
So over
with,
10
with,
years.
with that home tour, yes. And that's when I through that home tour, and there was a book published about the history of Lowenstein's practice. And in that history, I found that Jenkins worked with him and a couple other African American architects, and that they had designed those houses that I was just blown away by as I drove through South Benbow Road. And from there, I started to do my own research, and it's like, wow, and learning again that Jenkins designed, 5 or 6, if not more, houses in the area. William Street designed maybe 5. Jenkins more than likely did about 8 or 9. William Street about 5 or so. Gravely worked on at least 2 or 3, and he designed Providence Baptist Church, which is in the district. And Gerard Gray designed several houses as well in the district. But when I found that, all of those, the more impressive mid-century modern or modernist houses were designed by these architects, it again just blew me away. And as one of the sponsors for that tour was Preservation Greensboro. And just in talking with some of the board members, and I think Benjamin Briggs at the time was president, I think, or CEO, one of those. And just sharing with him my passion for mid-century modern design and architecture. And I was actually asked to be on the board and in 2017, I think, is when I actually joined. But it was with his guidance regarding what can I do about this amazing architecture. Because I didn't know a lot about the National Register of Historic Places, but Benjamin did. And so eventually I wanted to, 4 properties in particular, I wanted to be able to have them listed on the National Register, because the people and that's a whole nother side of it. The people in the neighborhoods, they were trailblazers. They were pioneers in pretty much every area of living life, from academia to media to religion to science to arts to sports, medicine. And when I found that out, and in conjunction with, or tied, inextricably tied to the architecture, over there, it's like everybody needs to know about this. And that's in a very long way, that's how I, kind of got started and got this project, helped to spearhead this project. The city did a study in, oh my goodness, I think it was maybe 2008 or 2009 of the area, and it is possible at that point that the neighborhood wasn't old enough. It has to be at least 50 years old, or 50 years and older. And so by the time I came to Greensboro, and you know, and the Modernism Home Tour started, all of that. I guess it was time. I was the right person at the right time, and you know, that many years later, we now have the South Benbow Rd Historic District.
Tell us about, so at the same time you're learning about preservation and you're learning about the step process that has to be done in order to make this happen,
Yes.
which I want to get into, but you're learning about the people, you're learning at the architecture, and you're learning about this preservation process.
Yes.
Could you enlighten me as to what do you have to go through? Because you said it's a separate process from the district. You started to say there's one district process. Were you trying to get individual classifications through the state?
Yes, I was, and
Yes.
because that's all that I knew of was individual listing, and actually with the National Register, and it does go through their steps within the city first, and then the state, and then they, you know, then it moves to the National Park Service. But all I knew about at the time was individual listings on the National Register. And it was through Benjamin, I guess, that helped me to see that, you know, the entire district is worthy of you know, this listing. You know, it's one of the most fully, or if not the most fully, preserved African American neighborhood in Greensboro. There hasn't been a lot of alterations or modifications to the houses.
And that plays a big role in this.
It does. It does. That enabled it to actually get this designation.
Is there like, so it's like if you put a bunch of people put a bunch of additions on the house, does that make a difference?
Well, there are some houses there that have additions. So that's not, but it's additions in keeping with the original architecture. That's one thing. You know, a lot of the homes that were contributing structures, which are over 420, were contributing structures. They had very little modification. They didn't have like siding, and you know, they didn't. If the house was designed without columns weren't added at some point. You know, and those types of things. Basically, keeping the structure as close to the original design as possible. And this area of East Greensboro had neighborhoods that did that.
So you had to go through and, I guess, document all these things?
They were documented. I did not
Okay.
have to do it personally, fortunately.
A team of people had to do this.
Yes. Well, we hired, I think it was 2019 is when, and through Preservation Greensboro, I was introduced to Mike Cowig with the Historic Planning Department, and that department and Mike and Stephen Lee Gary have been. This would not have happened without their assistance and the Historic Planning Department, because it was through that department that we were able to get grants and things like that enabled the first study, which again I think it was 2019. And the city actually put some monies toward the study as well. And so first the area would have to be selected, then it would have to be studied. And Heather Slane is an architectural historian out of Durham.
I know she's done a ton of work on this.
Yes. It was her, she and her business partner.
Yeah.
They walked the streets of East Greensboro documenting well over 400, because 426 structures I think are contributing, which means there were others that they looked at that were not contributing. So they, I would say close to 500 structures they documented with photos from the street, with they research into the original owners, you know, when the homes were built, the type of structure, you know, each home is, and the application is 190 plus pages. Yeah, so.
Wow. And I remember her saying that you have to keep it to a certain area, because if you start to reach too far, like if you find you wanted to reach to a certain house that had, involvement of somebody with some other historical preservation
Yes.
interest that you wanted in
Right.
there. If you were reaching too far with the houses all around it, they didn't meet quite the criteria. The application lessens.
Yes, yes. It would lessen the strength of the application. And you want to submit an application that is as strong as possible. So, narrowing the scope, I guess, by area, because there are a number of other houses in Greensboro that have an amazing civil rights history that, again, like Heather said, shared with you, that we would love to have, listed on the National Register. They were a little further outside of the district at this point, but these are still properties that we are still looking at, maybe further down the road, as being able to work to get those listed as well. But yeah, the consistency of the continuity of architecture is a big thing. And for this grant, the civil rights and culture are two additional criteria that this district met. And again, hats off to Heather and her team for being able to see that, because again, initially I was thinking maybe just these 4 houses, let's see if we can get them on the National Register. But when Heather came through, she's like, this entire area, might potentially be, eligible for the listing.
Mm-hmm. And I know Bernita's interviews
Yes.
had,
Oh,
which
man.
she's done some wonderful interviews. She came in here in our studio and used this for a little
Okay.
bit. Yeah, she mainly does them at her house, but she came out here for a little bit and did some of them here, and that's been wonderful.
Yes.
For us, we're airing a lot of those on our channel, on our
excellent.
program.
Yes.
Yeah. And just to hear some of the stories that have come out of that are just fantastic. Jo Evans Lynn is the one that comes to mind.
Right.
Her stories, she did 3 interviews with Jo Evans Lynn.
Wow.
And her stories are just fantastic. We're talking about the lions at the L. Richardson Pryor Hospital.
Oh, man, yes. Okay.
Yeah, because
Wow.
one of the stories was that you had to have a man sign off on you getting your tubes
Oh,
tied,
my
and I
goodness.
did not know this. And
Yes.
her mom, I think it was her sister or cousin, somebody
Right.
died in the family
Right.
after having so many children, and I think she had the 7th one, and she's like, "Yeah, no, we're not doing this."
We're
Like,
done.
and I think she had some complications too, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, yeah, that happened, and he's like, "No," and well, she's like, "Okay," and she told the 2 girls.
Oh,
She said
yes.
she told me and my sister not to help her, or help him.
Help him,
And
right.
and I'm not sure how I guess the hospital kind of aided her in this, or if she was recovering.
Right. I think she stayed, and I don't know the full story.
Mhm.
I've just heard bits and pieces of it. It's pretty, incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she said she was not going to leave the hospital until, because she wanted that particular procedure. And again, her husband was like not having it.
Yeah.
But
And he was trying to get the girls ready to go to school, and 2 of them went in the bed.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, because he thought that he thought he was going to be smart and get them all dressed
Oh.
beforehand. And 2 of them went to bed, and she said he wasn't ever late for work, and that day he was late for work. He went back and he signed the papers.
Right. So you get it
What
done.
a-
Please come back.
Yeah, what a time.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a bunch of incredible stories like that. I remember having the fries here.
Oh my.
And I could just remember just what an example they were of just this genuine, loving couple who, both of them had been through so much. They had done
Yes.
so much.
Yes.
And just to watch them too, and just how they interacted with one another.
Right, yes.
threw in some facts. He's like, what? And she threw in some facts, and just how humble, and genuine they were was just fantastic to watch.
Yes, yes. And I've had opportunity. You are correct. 100%. I've had an opportunity to talk with the both of them in their home, which happened to have been designed by Ed Jenkins, but originally designed for Bishop Wyoming Wells.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they are two of the most genuine people that I've had opportunity to meet, and just great what is the term? Greensboro-onian?
Greensboro-onians.
Greensboro.
We just invented a new term.
Hey, Greensboro-onians.
That's good.
But no, they are fantastic, absolutely fantastic people.
Yeah.
I was actually just thinking about them today. It's like I gotta, reach out to them just to, I'm checking on you, saying how you doing. But yeah, they're fantastic people.
Yeah. One of the when I first got here, I remember we had these community voices, and it was long before I was here. We started these in '99, I think they started rolling with these.
Wow.
And but we had the Fries on that program too. We actually had Mike Cowig on that.
Oh, really?
We had Maddie Reed.
Wow.
Yeah, and I sent that to Bernita after we were
Oh,
done with
my
that.
goodness.
And so that was my introduction to Greensboro, because I'm not from here.
Wow.
And so when I came down here, my boss said, find these voices.
Right.
And so I found them. Dr. George Simpkins was like my introduction to Greensboro.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. What an
And
introduction.
and the golf course story.
Right. Yes.
And that was how I learned about Greensboro.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, you got the master's class.
I didn't know that. And I remember thinking at the time because he had two major Supreme Court cases.
Right. Yes.
And because he was in this district, right? Did he live in?
His residence, his home, is actually outside of the district.
Well, then I'm messing up the whole interview.
Well, no. That is one of the properties that we are trying to get listed.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just recently changed hands, and we would absolutely love to be able to have that property listed on the National Register. And yeah, that has always been on the radar, even though it's outside of the district. But as Heather mentioned, you can't make the district too large,
Right.
or you're gonna water it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the Simpkins house is one that we would love to have listed on the National Register.
Yeah. Now, how do you do that for like an individual house? What's the criteria for that?
Well, there's different criteria that a structure can meet, a residence or whatever can meet. I don't know all of them, but there are different criteria that the South Benbow Rd Historic District dealt with architecture, which is more modernist, having been designed by African American architects, and then the civil rights piece and the culture piece were all a part of the criteria. I think there may be 7 or 8 criteria that a property can meet, and it only has to meet one, from what I understand, to be a part of be listed on the National Register. But say the Simpkins house, for instance, it would be actually probably listed for architecture, culture, and civil rights, just like the district. But someone would have to, if you don't have, or if you're not a architectural historian like Heather Slane is, then you would hire one, or if you know all of the ins and outs of the architecture, why it would, for lack of a better term, pass, in each of those categories, whatever they may be, then you'd have to write the history of it. You'd have to, again, be able to describe, like 4/1 windows and 5 bays wide and all of those types of things, and just do. It's a lot of research, and from there the application needs to be written. Well, for an individual, for the district, it had to actually go through, and I would imagine all properties would the local historic district or commission. I was also appointed to the Greensboro Historic Preservation Commission, and my first meeting was to vote on whether or not to forward the district to the state, the South Benbow Rd Historic District, to the state for review. And also, there were 2 Lowenstein houses that were a part of that. So my first vote was yes to pass through to the state. Let's say State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, is the but because they have to review the application, and there's a very involved process, and from 2019 when the study happened, of course that was the year COVID started. And so that delayed us by at least a year or so, just in people not being able to get out and go door to door like Heather and Sherry, her partner, did once people were able to get back out and but so it goes through all of that process, starting with the city level, the Greensboro's Historic Preservation Commission. It goes to the state level, and then it is reviewed. It is presented and reviewed. There are, for the district, there are community meetings that have to be a part of it. I guess if it were an individual home, you wouldn't have to do community meetings, but the process again had took a good number of years, culminating just with and again part of that was because of COVID, but culminating with the actual listing. The application, I think, was submitted to the National Park Service after the state reviews it and approves it. They could have sent it back to Heather and her partner to, if they had questions, but Heather is such a thorough person, architectural historian, and she and her partner, there were no questions. They did an amazing job with the application, and again, it went through the state, and it was forwarded to the National Park Service in, I think, November of last year, and October, it may have been October. And then by December 9th, we heard that we'd gotten the listing. And I don't know, when I drive through the district now, a smile comes over my face just to know that it's been done. We still have to get signage, and so that folks will know that they're entering the South Benbow Rd Historic District. And so the committee that Mike basically pulled together all those many years ago, we still meet once a month, and I think we're meeting a little more regularly now because of there are some grants we were looking at, and things to get some of the street signage done. And we actually were awarded a third grant to continue the oral histories that Bernita was doing, and also to do what we call, I think, a multi-property application, which is basically doing most of the groundwork for anyone who wants to maybe do their individual property. They can actually cite all of this work that Heather is going to be doing that as well.
Tell me about some of the things that you learned going through this process about the district.
About the district?
Yeah.
Oh man, how much time do we have? Oh my goodness. The people are, and I love rattling down a list of some of the people that I learned about, just in doing the research. You mentioned the Frys. Chief Justice Henry Fry, the first African American Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court, and I would say that would be the pinnacle, I guess, legal terms, or in that sense. But he was like an assistant attorney general to the Southern District, and in the 80s or 90s, and he a lot of firsts in the area of law for North Carolina. And then Mrs. Fry, she actually was the first president of the integrated YWCAs, and that was in the 70s, early 70s or late 60s. and again, sought after just with the wisdom and what she brings. She sat on and still sits on a number of boards just for what she can bring to the table as far as her insight, and how to structure organizations. So they live currently in the district, again in this home. You have Dr. Alvin Blunt, the Alvin and Gwendolyn Blunt home, designed by Gerard Gray. He was part of the Simpkins versus Moses Cone Hospital lawsuit that desegregated hospitals across the nation. But that was in the early 60s. And again, that was a lawsuit. So Dr. Blunt lives in the neighborhood. Dr. Simpkins, who's a dentist, he was a part of that lawsuit as well. He lived and had a house in the neighborhood, and his wife was Eva Hamlin Miller, Dr. Miller, I'm sorry, I said Dr. Simpkins. But Dr. Miller actually lived in the neighborhood, and his wife, Eva Hamlin Miller, she was an artist, an instructor, did stained glass on a number of churches and at Bennett College, but in two of the churches designed by, no, two of the churches I'm sure of, designed St. James, and she also did some work at St. Matthew's, which was designed by Jenkins. St. James was designed by Jenkins. Providence was designed by Clinton Gravely, and she did stained glass for all of these churches and their windows. And let's see, other people who were part of the Deborah Lee, who was the president and or CEO of BET. Her family lived in the neighborhood, growing up. Loretta Lynch, who was Attorney General. Her earliest years were she lived in the district. You have Edwards. I think Edwards was his last name, a physics professor at A&T. He helped us he's one of the founding professors of the physics department. One of his students was astronaut Ron McNair, but Edwards lived in the district. Let's see, Hattie Liston. She was the first African American licensed clinical psychologist for North Carolina, in the state of North Carolina. She lived in the district, and her house was designed by Gerard Gray, one of the architects there. I could go on. There have been like Tuskegee Airmen. Even William Street was a Tuskegee Airman in World War II. There are other Tuskegee Airmen who lived in the area. I think it's the B-1 band. There was a member of that band, one of the founding members, who lived in the district and in a house designed by William Street. So in local politics, you have Dr. Hampton, William Hampton. He was the first African American to win a general election for the city council. He lived in a house designed by Jenkins, and so there. I mean, I could go on just with the number of people who were trailblazers again and pioneers in again every area of living, from like I mentioned, politics to art to science to business to Justice Fry. Both Justice Fry and Attorney Lee started financial institutions that helped to build houses, particularly Lee, because he came like maybe in the 50s and judged with American Federal Savings and Loan. Judge Fry, I think he started in the 70s, Greensboro National Bank. So, but Lee it was through his institution that a lot of the houses were able to be built in what is now the newly listed South Benbow Rd Historic District. I like saying that. But
It's got a ring to it, doesn't it?
it does. It really does. But yeah, these are, again, just a handful of the people who lived and their children or their grandchildren. There are at least one where the grandchild came back to buy the house that her grandfather had built and lived in. So she grew up and left and came back and bought the house. So.
Why is it so important to have this labeled as a historic district?
Well, it's an honor first, and it's national recognition of the amazing people who lived in the district. You know, it's the people, it's the architecture, it's the culture, all of those things. Again, you know, these were pioneers and trailblazers and civil rights and the like, and so it's so that this history can be maintained, not forgotten, not set aside, not deleted from websites and things. But we'll have that. We'll have a piece of that history in, tangibly as once we get the street signs and things. But you got the physical buildings, so that it'll be available. That history will be available for generations to come. You know, one of the things that I take from this the process, this decade plus long process, was that if 10 years from now, if a child just thumbing through whatever devices they have at that time, and they see a story on the South Benbow Rd Historic District, and they see some of the history of the people that helped to make this a National Register worthy district, and they see what these folks endured, what they accomplished in the midst of what they had to endure, if that can inspire that young person to say, well, maybe I can do whatever is in their mind to do as well. Because remember, earlier I said it just takes one person initially to make a decision. But if this project can help this child to say, maybe I can do it too, and to move forward on some things. They may be going through some challenges, but they'll be able to read about some of the challenges that these pioneers and trailblazers were accomplished again in spite of. So that's one of the things that I take great joy in thinking about. That scenario that if just one young person is encouraged to move forward with their dreams, then yeah, it would have been worth it. All of it would have been worth it.
What about the? Tell us about the celebration. I believe it was. It's been a couple of weeks now, but I believe it was a Saturday. Yeah, it was a Saturday that we went in.
Yes.
What did you?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. One of the first thing that I remember and think about as it relates to that is that each neighborhood within the district, they are proud of their individual history as a neighborhood. So not only are the people, the individuals who lived in the neighborhood, the residents of the neighborhood, proud of their individual accomplishments, but each neighborhood is proud of their history and the accomplishments of the residents that live in each neighborhood. So what the South Benbow Rd Historic District was able to do was to bring all of these different neighborhoods together in one place to celebrate this accomplishment. And I was completely blown away by that fact alone, that and there's nothing. I applaud the folks, the residents of the neighborhoods, different neighborhoods, for, first of all, knowing their history, for celebrating their history, and for championing their history as well. And so having everyone come together for that one purpose, to celebrate, this new listing and this new district, and celebrating the history together as one, with one voice. Although there were a few times in the celebration at the History Museum where the different neighborhoods basically gave shout outs to them to themselves, which is fine. But the overarching theme was that we all came together. Residents, I mean, it was a kind of a rainy day, a light rain throughout almost the entire day, but the neighborhood came out. The neighborhoods came out. The residents came out to celebrate. We had people drive from Georgia, down from Maryland, yes, to be a part of that celebration. The children or grandchildren of some of the original residents. It was amazing just to hear. And we came from Maryland and actually DC as well. There were and these were young ladies that came from that I was aware of. Other people may have driven down or up, but they didn't make me aware of them specifically. But these were two different young ladies, two groups of young ladies who drove from Maryland and from DC to be a part of the celebration. We had local sponsors and just amazing, even civic support. We had a tour from, it started at Providence Baptist Church, again designed by Clinton Gravely, and of course in the district. But and we did a tour abbreviated tour of the district, and went to the Greensboro History Museum, where we had the second portion of the celebration, the food and fun at Providence, and then the panel discussion and presentations at the History Museum. But well attended, and everyone had such a warm, fuzzy feeling, throughout the entire thing, and for days afterwards. I talked to some people and said, man, I'm still feeling really, really good, So it was a great experience, a great culmination to that part of this process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a sense of pride, the recognition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was, yes.
Yeah, it was great to just sit and talk with everybody at Providence, and that was awesome. So there's some signage that needs to be done.
Yes.
A few odds and ends that need to be detailed, but
yes. In order to get some of grants for some of the signage and things, you need to have a 501c3. So I think at least some of the community associations are looking at getting a 501c3 together so that they can get grants under the auspices of their own name, versus having to go through the city or secure that through some other nonprofit. So that's being worked on. Again, the signage is being worked on. There's some other things dealing with the landscape and the tree canopy, and that we're looking at as well. And possibly some type of online presence, because a lot of the all of the interviews that Bernita did and the information around the district is going to be archived at in the state, North Carolina, not the university, but the state archive. And so that process is ongoing, because there was a lot of information that has to be, I don't know the full process, but it's involved. Oh yeah, you would know the process.
Well, I don't know about the process. I know I have to request it. I have to request for permission from the state in order to be able to do this, and in order to air them on the channel, which is fine. It's
right.
It's no big deal. But going through those interviews there's a lot of information in there. Like you said, you're talking about at least 2 hours, sometimes 3-4 hours a piece on some of these interviews.
Yes.
Of a lot of it's generational, a lot of it's detailing events. It's
yeah. If someone needs to go through and compile, something dealing with all of these interviews. By the time it's done, I know Bernita's done at least 50, and that's an incredibly low ball number. I think it's closer to 100 than it is.
It's way more than that.
And just for this, and she was doing interviews well before, this project, and so I would say just her total interview count would be definitely over 100. I would think. You know, she's modest. So.
Oh, she's always mine. I wanted to have her on this program as well.
Yes.
And interview her. 'Cause
Yes.
she's got a fascinating history.
Oh my goodness, she does, and she would be an amazing person to interview. Just for her the history of both her parents.
Yeah.
And you know, and what she's been able to accomplish as well. You know, as an individual. So. Yeah, if you can get her on, Bernita, come on.
So what's next for you after this? What are you working on after this?
Well, we're still working on different aspects, those other aspects of the this district. There's been interest in other communities. Locally, well, here locally and in other cities, that you know, hey, we'd love to do something like this, you know, in our neighborhood or in our city, and so I'm open to, you know, assisting, you know, in those types of efforts. There are some things that I'd like to do to see personally, maybe, you know, pulling together some of the information. There have been residents who wanted to do maybe a Facebook page or something like that, and it's like that's an amazing idea, great idea. But right now, I don't have time to pull it together. But if you know, this person in particular, yeah, they're really you know, were excited about the idea. So I'll have to circle back around to them so that we can see if we can get something like that up that will showcase some of the history and of the residents, and you know, all of the reasons why you know, it is now a historic district. So I have a few things that on the burner that I'd like to get accomplished as it relates to you know, pooling the information.
Mm-hmm. Are you still on it? Are you still a board member at Preservation?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And yeah. It's 2017, and you know, as I guess with most nonprofits, you know, we go through growing pains and we go through staying pains, and you know, but that organization has been also instrumental in this process. Early on, through Benjamin and Preservation Greensboro, we pulled together a tour. I was Benjamin called me the Sherpa, because I was guiding this team of people, preservationists and you know, city officials and Preservation Greensboro officials, through the neighborhood that is now this new district. And again, this was years and years ago, but it was through Benjamin that a lot of my connections with Mike Cowig and all of that came about. So yeah, so I am forever an advocate of Preservation Greensboro and what it has done historically, what we're looking to do going forward. You know, just in kind of broadening the perspective around preservation. And Greensboro has such an amazing history of preservation. We just have a history period that you know, is so worthy of preservation architecturally, and then when you couple in the stories of you know, the people, then yeah. So I will forever be an advocate, and you know, do what I can do to help further the mission of Preservation Greensboro.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've had Benjamin on.
Oh,
I had
great.
Benjamin on many times.
Right, yes.
For years, I had him on when I did the War Memorial Stadium
Yes.
that I talked about.
Yes.
I had him on for a bunch of other things that I was trying to do, because I was very interested in history and preservation, and
Yes.
so
Yeah.
he's a wealth of information.
Yes. And I mean, if you needed to know anything regarding the history of Greensboro, in particular, Guilford County and surrounding counties. In general, Benjamin was the go-to person.
Yeah.
I used to call him Super Sleuth because he could find information that, literally, this happened. We had some people who were looking for some history, their family history, for a couple years, at least they were looking for, like gravestones and that type of history. And they were connected to Benjamin, and literally in 2 weeks, he was able to find the information that they had searched at least 2 years to find. So I tagged him the Super Sleuth.
Eric, if there's anything else, it's been great having you on. Hey, actually, there is one more thing, as
Okay.
Lieutenant Colombo would say. There is one more thing.
Yes, that was a great impersonation too. Go, sorry. Right.
There is one more thing. Anyway.
No, that's great.
I always watch that show now. I love that show.
The very first episode of Columbo was filmed in the Stall House, which is one of the premier mid-century modern homes in the United States. Pierre Koenig, I think, was the architect, but it's over in like L.A. Oh my goodness, I should know where it is, but yeah. So if you can Google, because I did, of course. The very first Columbo, Peter Falk, right?
Yep.
His very first episode was filmed in that house, just as tie everything in together.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
No, you're fine. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to watch that episode now.
Right.
That's what I go to sleep to is Columbo.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. But anyway, have you ever thought about getting your own TV program? The Eric Woodard Show.
The Eric Woodard Show. I don't know about, well, actually, way back 1,000 years ago when I was in high school graduating, as far as what I wanted to do after high school, it would either have been design, which I did do design, product design, or like some type of broadcasting. So I chose design, but why? Got any openings? No.
We for $125 a year, you can get your own program right here on this channel.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Oh man, you should have told me that. No.
Yeah, you could do it. You can do it on Preservation, on the South Benbow District, on design.
Right.
You could you could do it right from your own phone. You could do the whole thing right from your own phone. You could shoot, edit it, shoot, record it, edit it, and you could just drop it in the Dropbox, and it'll be right on our channel.
Oh my goodness.
For $125 a year, you get 2 time slots a week. All right.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Oh man.
So you too can get yourself a
Right.
a program right here on the channel.
Oh my. Yeah. Well, that's maybe something I can also think about, because I would like to be able to again to champion, this the area, the history, design, particularly mid-century modernist architecture. But yeah, I didn't know that was a thing, and now I know.
Public access.
Yes.
That is our mantra, is to be able to do your own programming. It's
Wow.
I want to say it's protected under the First Amendment, but it's your ability to have your voice heard. So that's the idea.
Oh,
that's what public access is founded on.
Oh my goodness. You're giving me a platform.
Yeah. I call it's the YouTube before YouTube.
Right, yes. Oh man. Yeah, I again didn't know that was even a possibility. So yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, in any case, thank you so much for being on the program. We loved having you. We could talk for hours, but they don't want to hear anymore. We'd love to hear you. They don't